When I'm working on restoring an old photo, one of the things I save for last is enhancing detail. Think of this as sharpening your image, although sharpening isn't always the exact approach we'll take. I wanted to take a moment to demonstrate for you why it's so important to save some of these steps for late in the process when you feel that you're absolutely finished working on the image. Here I have an image with a variety of layers. Naturally, there's the original background image layer. I also have an image cleanup layer, and then I have a couple of adjustment layers that are modifying the overall appearance of the photo. If I wanted to enhance detail, such as by sharpening, I would want to work on a composite layer. In other words, a layer that reflects everything I've done to the image. The reason for that is that especially when I'm restoring an old photo, there's a very good chance that I'll have multiple image layers. I have the background image layer, and I have, in this case, one cleanup layer, but many times when working on an old photo, I'll have multiple cleanup layers, each containing different pixels. If I were to apply sharpening, for example, I would want all of those pixels to be sharpened. So rather than applying the same sharpening to every single image layer, I'll simply create a new composite layer. To do that, I'll use the stamp visible command. I'm going to go to the top of the layer stack here. I'll click on the topmost layer, and then I'm going to hold the Command, Option, and Shift keys on Macintosh, or the Control, Alt, and Shift keys on Windows, and then I'll press the letter N to create a new layer, and the letter E to create a stamp visible layer. With both of those keystrokes, I'm holding the modifier keys, the Command, Option, and Shift buttons on Macintosh, and the Control, Alt, and Shift keys on Windows. That creates a composite layer. You can see my layer 1 here. I'll go ahead and rename this to Composite. That is a reflection of everything I've done to the image thus far. In other words, it's as though I created a copy of all of these layers and then flattened them into a single layer. With this composite layer, I'm now ready to, for example, apply my sharpening in order to enhance detail. I'll go ahead and apply some exaggerated sharpening just so that we can see an obvious difference. Don't worry about how I'm going about sharpening, just recognize that the sharpening I'm going to apply is way too much. I'll make it both a high radius and a high amount so that we have an extremely exaggerated sharpening effect in the photo. With this sharpening effect applied, now let's consider a very real possibility that I might later discover there are other blemishes that I missed during my image cleanup. For example, zooming in on this person in the background, we can see that there are quite a few blemishes there that I might want to clean up. Naturally, I would want to return to my cleanup layer, but if I apply cleanup on that layer, I won't see the effect. I'll go ahead and apply just a basic cleanup there, and you'll see that nothing happens, or at least nothing appears to happen, and that's because I'm performing my cleanup work on the cleanup layer, where I should, but I have a composite layer up at the top of the layer stack that is blocking the view. So if I need to go back, I'm going to have to discard my composite layer. I'll go ahead and just turn off the visibility for that layer, and you'll see that I've now created a bit of a problem for myself. I applied that cleanup to the correct layer, but because I chose the Sample All Layers option, the cleanup didn't really work out all that well. So instead, I'll go ahead and undo that cleanup step by pressing Ctrl-Z on Windows or Command-Z on Macintosh, and I'll simply discard my composite layer. I've decided to go back and apply some additional cleanup, and so I'm going to need to recreate that composite layer when I'm actually ready to sharpen the image. And I can go ahead then and apply my cleanup. I'll go ahead and perform a basic cleanup here. And then zooming back out, now if I decided I was really ready, I could create a new composite layer. So again, the key here is to keep in mind that if you're going to apply adjustments, such as sharpening or detail enhancement, that require a composite layer, you need to make sure that you're finished working with all of your underlying layers first. If you later decide that you need to go back to those layers, you'll need to discard that composite layer and recreate it later.